What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 31 of the Daily Dose Podcast. Happy Monday, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Really helps out the channel a lot, guys. This podcast is sponsored by Jackpack LLC, as well as 1GM Construction. Tap in with them for all your roofing and construction needs in the Albuquerque and surrounding areas. Let them know you heard it on the Daily Dose Podcast for 10% off all services. Gonna be a super dope episode today, guys. Lots of current topics from last week. Some pretty good fights over the weekend. Hell of a card coming up this weekend. Let's get right into it, guys. So we had UFC Perth over the weekend. Overall, it was a pretty good card. Like I said, had a lot of fighters kind of catering over there. The Navajo Sterling fight was a banger. That was a really good fight. What else did we have on here? Of course, we're going to get to the main event. Jamie Malarkey's fight was pretty good. Now, the Neil Magny was interesting. At the end of the first round, it kind of seemed like he went out. The ref didn't necessarily seem like he called it or ended the round. So some people thought it was over, and then it seemed like the round was just over, and Magny ended up getting the win. You know, Jake Matthews said he thought he won, and then he had to get back in there. So it was quite an adrenaline dump, which would be understandable. So that was kind of an interesting one. Like I said, there was only the TKO and a KO on two fights on the prelims, and then on the main card there was some submissions, and then in the main event, Carlos Oberg knocked out Dominic Reyes cold. I mean, that was pretty crazy. It seemed like Dominic Reyes was very hesitant, right? He couldn't get in, he couldn't get his range. He was just backing up, kind of just letting Oberg, kind of do his thing. So it seemed to me like once Oberg realized, he's not going to do anything, he just started firing off, and he landed a dope. It was like a jab, almost like an off-angle right overhand. That was sick. That was super dope. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Oberg probably gets a shot at the winner of this weekend's fight. So overall, it wasn't an insanely good card, but it wasn't necessarily super boring. I mean, the prelims are pretty long with all those decisions, but sometimes it happens. So let's check out UFC 320. This is going to be a banger, guys. Who's on here? So on the prelims, on the early prelims, we got Veronica Hardy. We got Patchy Mix. We got Macy Chasen. There's some good ones. Then on the other prelims, Chris Gutierrez, Edmund Shabazian. Let's just go through the main card. So we got As Something Megamed versus Joe Pfeiffer. I don't know the other guy, but with that last name, we'll probably take him over Joe Pfeiffer. We got Josh Emmett and Yusuf Zalal. That's going to be a great fight. I think, man, that could go either way. I'm going to take Josh Emmett by a second or third round TKO. Now, this fight is going to be short. It's going to be action-packed. Yuri Prochazka versus Khalil Roundtree Jr. Besides Alex Pereira, Khalil Roundtree Jr. has just been looking better and better. I know he had a great camp. He was dialed in. He was out there in Vegas getting a lot of work in. So I'm definitely taking Khalil Roundtree. Second round TKO, maybe even earlier. Now in the co-main, we got Merab Dvalishvili versus Corey Sandhagen. Now this is tough, guys. Corey Sandhagen definitely has that explosive, one-shot power, knees, front kick. He's got some dope stuff. The problem is I don't know if he'll be able to catch Merab. Really, the only thing that beats Merab is the Father of Time. Guys, if you know anything about combat sports, wrestling, anything like that, or if you don't, you can never understand. Merab has shot 48 takedowns in one fight before, guys. That's why O'Malley looks super good. The second round of the last fight, defends like 5 takedowns in a row. And then he got submitted because he was absolutely exhausted. Like, you guys really can't understand unless you've wrestled how exhausting it is to just defend. If Merab can just keep coming like that, he'll probably win another decision over just control. It'd be cool to see Corey Sandhagen to catch him with something just so we could have a U.S. champion. But I'm taking Merab in that one. In the main event, it's tough. In reality, I think it could go similar to the first time. Although the main thing why it might stay on the feed and could go different is that they've really been having some real tension. I remember they were at the PI. They was kind of talking, and Alex told the translator he was going to slap him. And Magomed Ankalaev looked so hurt and pissed. It was hilarious. Straight get the translator. It's like, I'll slap you. That was hilarious. So they've kind of been chirping back and forth. Now, that does play in Alex's favor a little bit if he decides to stand and bang. But Magomed is no slouch on the feet. So that's going to be definitely a tough one. If I'm going put a gun to my head and I'm betting on someone, probably taking Ankalaev. But I'd love to see Alex catch him, get the belt back. Poeton's the man, So definitely a decent fight this past weekend. This card this weekend should be bangers, bangers. Obviously, there were some fights I didn't go over. I always just like to go over kind of the main ones. So let's see what current topics. We had a lot of stuff going on this past week. So, actually, before we get into that, BKFC as well this weekend. You got Mike Perry versus Jeremy Stephens. I think he's going to brutally assault and beat Jeremy Stephens as he does to a lot of people in BKFC. In the main and the co-main, you got Frankie Edgar versus Jimmy Rivera. Man, that's a tough one. I don't really like that for Frankie. Jimmy's already been in there. We'll see how it goes. I think, it could be a stoppage for Jimmy Rivera, but hopefully Frankie's in there and ready to go. Now let's get to the current topics. One thing was absolutely hilarious. I don't know who this kid thinks he is, but O'Malley said one of the times he was in, I don't know if it was New York or New Jersey, but he said Dillon Danis DM'd him and told him to check in. Like, dog, get the fuck out of here, bro. That is hilarious. If I was O'Malley, I would literally just replied laughing faces. Like, that is just absolutely crazy. That dude is a character, man. One thing, so they had the press conferences this past week. Gervonta Davis and Jake Paul. Kind of boring, kind of circus-esque, One of the main things I noticed, there was a lot of different Aiden Ross and random people asking terrible questions. And then it was interesting. I guess they're not communicating or they're not on the same page. But when they started talking about the gloves, Tank Davis's coach went up and asked why they're fighting in bigger gloves. And then they actually came out and were like, well, Tank actually requested it. So two things. To me, that kind of seems like Tank expects to get hit. So he's doing the bigger gloves. So that's a little concerning. I really think he would be so much faster. He would just put a clinic on. But having him put on the bigger gloves, to me, that means he's like, just in case I get hit, there's such a big size difference, stuff like that. So it was just interesting that the coach went out of his way to bring it up and ask about it. And then it turns out Tank was the one who requested it. So definitely should be on the same page with your team. Now, I don't know if you guys saw, pretty terrible, but crazy shit happens all the time. Wanderlei Silva was in a boxing match Saturday night, and he got DQ'd for headbutting his opponent. Blatant headbutt. Big old brawl breaks out post-fight. Wanderlei gets hit in the back of the head. He backs up. He's trying to see what's up. And the guy he was boxing, his son, sucker punched him and knocked him out cold. Absolutely out flat cold. It was insane. I know that he posted a video Sunday night and his eye was completely shut. He was banged. It was brutal. He was out cold for a good sec. So, I'm not going to say anybody deserves that. He has always been a wild guy. Chael Sonnen immediately goes on to X and says that Wanderlei Silva just got knocked out by a guy in a tuxedo. But he's just crazy. But it was definitely wild. Hopefully he is okay. But, man, it was definitely a brutal knockout. So, Conor McGregor, guys, the UFC might want to reach out to John, apologize, figure out some kind of deal, right? Conor comes out and says he wants equivalent to $200 million for the UFC White House card. Guys, Conor McGregor being the businessman, being a part of the UFC the way he has, he knows damn well that's no way possible. So for me, kind of goes off what I'm saying. He just doesn't want to fight. He's like, you guys give me some crazy money, yeah. Of course, with his ego and his brand and who he is, he's never going to come out and say that. But deep down, he's checked off every box in life. He lives very good. Why would he come back and fight? Beat up his body for 10 weeks, cut weight, stuff like that. So, yeah, he kind of priced himself out. So, will we have John Jones in there? We got to have somebody. So, we'll see what happens. So, Kai Cenant had this Mafiathon. He's been doing them. I think the most recent one was Mafia 3. One thing that's just so cool about it, I just see him and all his boys just living their life. It's unfortunate that not everybody in life can have the money and the means to do that. But, man, him and his boys are just having a hell of a time, bringing on all sorts of artists, hotboxing with Snoop Dogg. They had Blink 182 or someone on there, and singing, and man, they're just always having a good time. So super cool content to see and kind of bringing everybody together. Derick the Dork Moneyberg. This guy, yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. This guy says that Sean Strickland is afraid of him. And he said that on this podcast, he was saying that he's more athletic and stronger than a lot of fighters. Then, buddy, why do you look like a snowman? Sorry, I'm like, you know what I mean? If you're so athletic and you've trained so hard and there's that, why do you look like a snowman, buddy? You better stop that. You know damn well Sean Strickland ain't afraid of you. You didn't say nothing on camera, and then, as soon as the camera's away and you're by yourself, you start talking all that dorky stuff. Stop it, dog. You know damn well you're not athletic. You're not stronger than majority of the UFC fighters. That's the thing. They need to have like a requirements on like your IQ or your mindset to go on a podcast, because everybody can afford equipment, and you got some of these dumbasses going on there just saying reckless stuff. So stop it, buddy. In some other news, guys, I got to pull this up. This thing, honestly, I read this a few days in a row, and man, if you need a good laugh, if you're having a tough day, guys, I don't know if you saw. Now, of course, there could always be clickbait, right? But from what I can tell, I saw a couple of different people post it, so I think it's legit. But basically, Kanye West came out with the list. I want to read it in order. I have a good idea, but Kanye came out with the list basically on people that have been the biggest betrayers in his lifetime. And some of the people on this list were just like, buddy, you need some help. So, all right, let's go over this list here, guys. So Kanye West, man, what do we got for your list, bub? So number one on the list, I mean, of course that makes sense. Number one on the list, he's got Kim Kardashian. That makes perfect sense, that. And then number two, he's got I Show Speed. He's got Diddy, even though he was at the Diddy trial. He's got Ty Dolla Signs. Now this one just doesn't make any sense. He's got Harriet Tubman on there. I don't know what the hell she did. And then you got his daughter, Northwest. Like, what the hell, buddy? Pusha T, Freddie Gibbs, Kid Cudi. This one is absolutely insane. Curious George, the monkey from a kid's show, buddy. Donald Trump, Pete Davidson, Patrick Starr from SpongeBob. Dog, what is wrong with this guy? LeBron James, King Von, Playboy Cardi, James Murray from Impractical Jokers, and Adolf. So at the top of the thing, it said, I am in pain that no person can fix, the betrayal. And that was the list of people that have betrayed him in his life. This guy is absolutely crazy. That was so hilarious, though. Every like Curious George, Harriet Tubman, Ada, like Harriet Tubman died in like 1913, buddy. I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but that guy's a character. So G Herbo was on this podcast, and he said that he was allegedly robbed by Celina Powell back in the day, and it's actually more common than people think that a lot of these influencers, celebrities, males actually get robbed or, taken advantage of financially by some of these women. So it's just interesting. If guys get down like that, they would be blasted, put in prison, all this crazy stuff. With dudes, since it's a hot chick, we just kind of laugh it off. So that was definitely interesting. Now, someone similar on the nut level to Kanye, we got Ray J. This guy says that he's currently building a RICO case against Kim Kardashian. Like, for what, buddy? What are you talking about? And then he also says that he misses the Diddy parties and he'll take it from here. He'll carry the torch. Like, excuse me, buddy. Diddy's in prison, buddy. And you know what everybody thinks about those parties, and you said you miss them and you want to carry the torch. Lock this guy up. Some of these guys, again, shouldn't be allowed on a podcast. That stuff is crazy. Now, I saw this thing, and it was Gabrielle Union. She said she did not feel bad cheating on her first husband because she paid all the bills. Guys, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, anytime a male does that, he's slandered, he's beaten a bit. Like, I'm sure you girls are like, yeah, girl, do you? Like, that's crazy. So, kings, just keep that in mind. If your girl pays all the bills, she might have an ulterior motive. Now, Charlie Sheen comes out with this this thing on Netflix, like a documentary on him. Some crazy stuff on there. One of the things was he said he got, I think it was actually on an interview, that he got cut off by the cartel because he was buying so much of that stuff, they thought he was flipping it. And that boy was just turning up. Now, one thing I've turned up, I've had a lot of good times. This boy said he had to turn over the menu and try the other side, referring to men. Excuse me, buddy. I've never gotten turned. See, and I hate when guys blame it on being turned or something like that. That's just who you are, buddy. You know what I mean? I've gotten wild. I've turned up, done stuff. I never once felt that way, buddy. So it's all good. But it's funny when people try and blame it on that. That's just how you are, my boy. Now, I mean, call it down, hood, whatever you want. I call it an idiot. Rapper Sleepy Hallow fights an op at the courthouse. Well, yeah, buddy. I mean, on site. Hopefully, it was a good reason if it was on site. Fights buddy at the courthouse, causes a big old scene. Now, instead of them both going to court, they're locked up in the Bing. So, good job, buddy. That's just crazy. Now, rapper Dave Blunts, he's actually standing up. He's been trying to be healthier and perform at his shows. He wanted to crowd surf at his show over the weekend, and the crowd was not having it. They were chanting, "Hell nah, don't do it." Now, not to be mean, guys, but seriously, you could hurt somebody. If you're 400 pounds and you jump on top of someone, you could break their arms, their back, their neck. Like, that is very dangerous, buddy. He ended up walking it off. He was very upset, but, you know, it's like, come on, if it really bothers you that much, keep going, get in shape, and one day you'll be able to crowd surf. But that was hilarious. I was dying. Now let's look at some other news from the past week. Adrian Broner, man. Now we had talked about him, you know, because he had that interview. He had got kicked out with Cameron. Well, like a day or two later, some footage comes out. He's absolutely sauced at the bar. He doesn't have money. Well, he's acting like he doesn't have money to pay his tab. He's asking the bar if he can come pay him back tomorrow. He's asking his homies that only make that much money in a month, hey, you got the $2,200. Then this guy pulls out a big old stack of 20s. It's probably $1,500 tops. He tries to give him like $400 or $500 and says that's all he can give him. So I don't know what ended up happening, but again, it's just sad. Buddy was so drunk. Tried to pay $500 of his $2,200 tab. Told him he'll get him tomorrow. Told him he thought it was free. Asked his boys to get it. It was a disaster. Guys, I don't know what's up with NBA YoungBoy fans. First, you got all these grown men, all these dudes, all these influencers crying and damn near crying. Then this chick posts a GoFundMe to pay her rent because she spent her money on floor seats for an NBA YoungBoy concert. Guys, you got to be shitting me. You absolutely got to be shitting me. It's like, again, a lot of stuff's clickbait, right? Who actually knows? But if you really spent your rent money on a floor seat and then you want people to pay a GoFundMe, you're out your damn mind. You need to partake in some type of natural selection. That's just crazy. You know what I mean? One thing that was wild, I think it was Saturday night, or I don't know the day, because whenever Terrence Crawford had his parade in his home city, he was pulled over that night for reckless driving. He was taken out of his car at gunpoint. It was crazy. The mayor said he's going to look into it. Like, buddy, you don't know who that is? He just had a big-ass parade in your city. You don't know who that is? The cops were acting super aggressive, super unnecessary. Hopefully something happens there. But, yeah, shout-outs to the champ. You know, he had a dope parade. He's just living it up as he should. Shout-outs to Terrence Crawford. Now, guys, if you remember a little bit back, there was that Coldplay incident, right, with that HR and the CEO and all that. Well, allegedly, the internet did some digging, and the husband of that HR lady was actually at that same concert with his date. So they was both doing some crazy stuff. I'm like, man, first of all, you know, if that's true, I guess, I don't know what's wrong with both of y'all. Just leave and do your thing. But it's crazy how the internet will do some digging, boy. You put yourself out there, you better be careful. That's just wild if that's really the case. Like, what a shit show, you know? So, guys, this guy, Tai Lopez, he's one of those guys, you'll see a video of him on Instagram, you know, exotic cars, huge mansion, living luxurious. Well, him and his partners are being charged for like $125 million scheme, basically Ponzi scheme. They told a lot of Radio Shack, I think, a couple other big companies that were failing. They told them they would turn them into e-commerce business and make them all sorts of money. And they basically got paid and never produced any results. So absolutely crazy. You know, it's a bummer, right? Because you see these guys doing it and you really want to believe that if you do XYZ, you can get to a similar place. And then it comes out that a lot of these guys are lying, cheating, stealing. And for me, I wouldn't want to live luxurious like that if it's at other people's expenses. So I know there's real legit successful entrepreneurs out there, but That's why I tell you guys, you got to be careful and do your homework because a lot of these dorks are goofballs. So be careful. Something that was interesting, and it just goes to show like how nuts some of these guys are. But if you guys haven't heard of Brian, I think it's Koberger. He's a guy who murdered like 4 different college students. I believe it's in Idaho. And this guy is complaining in court about nobody wants to be his friend, that the food sucks, that his bed isn't comfortable. Yeah, you're in prison, buddy. You are in prison, buddy. But that's just crazy how someone would do something like that and then be like, yeah, none of the inmates want to hang out with me. Nobody rocks with me. They're like, yeah, bro, you brutally murdered 4 young people. Like, everybody wants to whoop your ass, buddy. So it's just crazy, though. Like, just showed you how out of his mind is. And they said he talks to his mom like unlimited times a day, calls her mom. He acts like a little kid on the phone, but murdered people. So I don't know what you do with something like that, but that stuff is definitely absolutely crazy. So look up the case if you haven't, guys. It's pretty wild. Now, one thing I did just see, it was announced that this next year, February 2026, Bad Bunny will be performing at the Super Bowl halftime show. Wow, huge shout outs to him. That's a major accomplishment. I'm sure it'll be a dope show. He'll get tons of support, and it's cool to see people getting their just due. Really good episode, guys. Tons of crazy topics. Man, what a wild week. The fights last weekend were pretty good. I am positive this weekend's fights will be some absolute bangers. Don't forget to tune in, guys. Let's get out of here on the message of the week. If you hate, if you look for handouts, or you worry about others, you'll never get anywhere. Guys, don't worry about what other people do or don't do, what they got going on. Find your lane, lock in, and be all in on yourself. And that's what counts. That's what matters. All you can do is have pure intentions, be a good person, do your thing. Can't worry about the rest. Thank you so much, guys. Episode 31 of the Daily Dose Podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Keep running the channel up, guys. We'll see you next week.